Hey you guys, it's me Crystal. So today I have a 3-part video. I have a mini book haul because there were some books for sale around Black Friday and I wanted them, so I got them. And then the second part is my November reading wrap up and the third part is my December TBR. So since I want to do more TBR and reading wrap ups videos next year, I thought I'm going to start in December or the very end of November. And yeah. And I did start to do like TBR and reading wrap-up videos, I think a year or 2 years ago, and I fell off for whatever reason. So this isn't going to be the way. I'm planning on doing my TBRs next year, where the plan is to just draw books out of the hat and have Chance choose for me. And we'll see how it goes. But this is the way I've been doing my TBRs for like the last 2 years. Also, I had a combo TBR for November and December. So the books on my December TBR are just going to be the books that are left on that combination TBR that I still want to try to read by the end of the year. So let's just get started with the mini book haul. And I'm going to start with the ebook so I don't forget about it. And that is Sex and Vanity by Kwan. And this is a guy who wrote Crazy Rich Asians. And I haven't read that book, but I did see the movie and I thought it was super fun. And so this is, I think maybe like his style where he mixes drama and humor and romance and rich people problems. And so this is about a girl who, she's half Chinese and she goes to this fancy island and like she meets this Chinese guy there and she's trying not to be attracted to him, but she is. And so I think they like hang out some and then they kiss and then she goes home. And so like several years later she's engaged and this guy comes back into her life and of course drama ensues and it sounds really interesting. I don't read a lot of contemporary, which I'm sure I've mentioned several times. So when I first ran across this book a couple months ago, I was just kind of like, oh, that sounds really interesting, but I didn't even like put it on a Goodreads TBR. But then when Black Friday was here, I saw this book was for sale for $2.99 and I was like, $3 is a very low risk price for a contemporary book, so I picked it up. And then these books are in no particular order. This is just where they're stacked on the desk. And so next I have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. And I'm not really a good person to ask to say what this book is about. But as far as I can tell, it's just about this woman named Catherine and this guy named Heathcliff and how their lives intertwined. And I think, or at least my thought, was that this book was kind of gothic and spooky and romantic. And I'm not getting that from the audiobook. Like, the audiobook is free on Prime Reading, and the narrator, while I think he's doing a good job in general, he's a little perky, I think, for the tone of the story, but I was having an okay time following along. But now he's talking to this woman, and so the woman, they brought in a second voice actor, and she is not changing her voice at all when different people are talking, and I'm having such a hard time keeping up with this book, and it's so frustrating, and I really want to know what the story is about. And so I'm like, I'm just going to have to break down and read the physical copy of the book. And I was really kind of hoping that Manga Classics would make one, but it's not out now. So I'm like, I can't wait anymore because I'm dying. So anyway, I got the Barnes & Noble edition with these beautiful purple edges and this beautiful end paper. So yeah. Next we have One to Watch by Kate Stayman London, and since this is in my reading wrap-up section, I'm going to talk about this more in that section. But yeah, this is contemporary romance, and again, I don't read a lot of contemporary books, let alone contemporary romance. It's like my second like least favorite genre in the entire world, but I woke up one day and I was like super in the mood to read this, so I'm like, I'm going to read this now. So then I have Fangs by Sarah Anderson, and it says right on the back that this is a love story between a vampire and a werewolf, and this looks like it's really like hilarious and ridiculous and fun. So I picked this up, and you can tell from the tone from like the very first page, the main character with the vampire character, she's having drinks with her friend. Her friend's like, it's like cats or dogs, and she's like, dogs for sure. And this guy's like, you're interested in dogs? I'm kind of a dog. And it's just so, it seems like it's so ridiculous and fun, so I picked this up. And then next, I picked up a physical copy of Bunny by Mona Awad, and I talked about this in my last book haul when I picked up the ebook, but I really wanted a physical copy so I could just pick it up and, you know, quickly, you know, read a couple different pages here and there, because I absolutely love this book. It is super, super weird. And the best summary I can give without giving anything away is about this girl in an MFA program for fiction at this really snooty kind of art school. And her colleagues, her peers, are in this kind of weird cult, and she calls them the bunnies because they call each other bunny. And when people say this book is weird, like, they are not kidding. Like, weird, it's not even a good adjective to describe how weird this book is. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was super fun, and it's not that long. Yeah, so it's like horror with like fantastical elements and like surrealism. And it's a ride. It's a good ride. It's a head trip. I love this. I loved it. It's right up my alley. So next I picked up 2 books by Alice Hoffman, and the first one is The Red Garden. And I think this is about like some kind of hostel or hotel or something, and it goes through, I don't know if one person is telling the story of like different family members, or if these are just different short stories. I guess I'll figure it out when I get in there. But a lot of the chapters are like this. So this says 8 Nights of Love, 1792. And then like the next section says like the year there was no summer, 1816. So I don't know if it's like just snapshots or if it's somebody telling the story. I have no idea, but it sounded interesting. I'll just read you the first sentence on the back, and it says, "This explores the luminous and haunting world of Blackware, Massachusetts, capturing the unexpected turns in its history and in our own lives." I don't know. It's not that long, and I had room for it, and I want to read more of her books. And it says, "Full of magic and grit and tragedy. Each episode is a marvel, painful and exquisite." Entertainment Weekly. And then the other book is Blackbird House. And this is, as far as I can tell, when I was reading the blurbs, it was that this was about, I think it's like this cabin, and I think it spans some years, but it's all this one family. And so I'm thinking it's kind of like The Red Garden, where you have like different like episodes that all take place in this one place. I think it's in this one family. I know there's a witch in here at some point, and she like changes the course of like this family forever, like in a good way. I'm thinking it's in a good way. Also, it's short. I had room, so. Then I picked up Dearly by Margaret Atwood, and this is the author who wrote The Handmaid's Tale, and she has a book of poems. And since I like poems, I picked this up. And this is what our naked hardcover looks like. It's kind of like it's kind of textured. It's classy. And then I picked up this picture book, I've Loved You Since Forever, and this is by Hoda Kotb. And I don't know, it just looks so adorable. Look at these foxes. Aren't they so, so cute? And yeah, so I thought this would be nice to read the next time I'm in a bad mood and I need a pretty, uplifting, cozy, adorable book to read. Okay, so I tried not to get this book. And this is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Maxie. Maxie. And this is like the talk of the town, and it was like Barnes & Noble's book of the year. And look at this font. Does that look easy to read? No, it doesn't. But everybody's like, oh, this is so great, and it's infused with all these wonderful life lessons. And I wasn't going to get this, but I was standing in the checkout line, and they just had it up there, and they had a blue one and like a maroon one, and I'm like, should I get this? I'm just gonna get this. Maybe it'll be uplifting on a day that I need it or something. Or maybe I'll just sate my curiosity because I had to send in my Amazon cart. And yeah. And so the last book in the mini book haul section is The Nightmare Before Christmas. This is the comic book version of the movie put out by Disney Comics. And yeah, I love this movie. I think you can watch it every day from October 1st to the end of the year. And I mean, obviously there's not going to be any music, but yeah, I wanted to read it. I want to read this on Christmas or Christmas Eve or something and be that person. And I really wanted this, so yeah. So now we're going to get into part 2, which is my reading wrap up. And so I only read 4 books in November because I started reading, well, I'll talk about that book in the TBR section, but I started reading the book, and while the book has been very interesting, it is also, I also didn't want to read it. So I think I don't know what I'm calling this. I call something different every time I talk about it, but I have like an invisible threshold and like an invisible tolerance level for certain things. And when I reach them unexpectedly, I can no longer tolerate those things like for a small amount of time. And so one of those things is teenagers whining. And so at some point, and this happens every single year, I like cannot read any more YA because the characters start getting on my nerves. And so then I need a break, refill that reservoir, and then I can handle it again and I'm totally fine. And it happened a lot later this year than it has the previous like 3 or 4 years. But anyway, so I finally decided to just read something else. And so these are the books that I read in November. And so the first one I read is Giant Days Volume 14. And like I said, every single time I talk about these are comedic, contemporary graphic novels about this trio of college friends. And this is the artwork, and I love the artwork. It's very fun and bright. And yeah, so this is the last volume, and our friends that graduate from college, and then it catches up with them, I think a year later, like out in the real world. And it gets a little weird at the end, though. Like, it waxes a little supernatural, and I don't know if it's because the author, John Allison, he has like a supernatural graphic novel series out, and so I don't know if he like couldn't help himself, but it didn't make any sense, so I gave this 4 stars instead of 5, which I was expecting to give it because it was just, I just wanted a less open ending after all this time and all these volumes and waiting for all these volumes to come out. And it was a little open in a couple places, and yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed them overall, and so I want to reread them at some point, but yeah. And then the next book I've read is What Goes Up by Hepburn, and this is a contemporary novel in verse, so it's told through poems and through a poetic format, and it's about this girl, and she wakes up and I think in the top bunk of some random guy's bed in some random room, and she doesn't know how she got there. And so through text messages and memories, she like pieces together what happened. And also, you know, we go like through her past and I mean, she's a teenager, so she's still in her childhood, but like her earlier childhood to like piece together, you know, kind of why she ended up, you know, like waking up in this random guy's bed, and yeah, kind of her mental state and everything. But I thought it was really good. I give it 5 stars. I really like Hepburn. And then next I read another kind of poetry book, which is Shout by Lori Halse Anderson. And you guys, okay, I gave this book 4 stars, and I remember finishing this and I was like, I feel like this is a 5-star book. Like, I feel like this was really, really good, but it made me kind of like, it made me kind of upset a little bit. Okay, so this is basically, where does it say this? I think on the Amazon page or something. But anyway, it's like, it says it's a poetry memoir. And so it's basically like a memoir told in verse format. And you guys, this is like super, super heavy. And so it took me a lot longer to read this than a typical poetry book, because as you can see, like, there are so many words on most of the pages. And it's just like, it reads like a memoir that's told in verse. and it's really heavy. And one of the first things she talks about is some trauma that her dad went through. And I'm like, thanks for the imagery. And so I think the way I'm talking about it on my blog, when that blog comes out on Wednesday, it's like, I feel like she's hitting me over the head with a brick for like 200 pages. And then she's like, well, let me lift you up and tell you that you're wonderful and everything's going to be okay and amazing. And I'm kind of like, thanks, you know? And so I feel battered, but like, I'm not mad about it. She's had kind of a rough life, and it was just a lot. It was a lot. And she's also had a really good life too. But oh my gosh, some of the things she's gone through, and I'm just like, anyway, it's just really heavy. She just talks about, like she was raped and her like home life, and they were like struggling and they were poor sometimes. And, what she's had to go through when she was at school with like other students. But then she also like got to be part of this exchange program. She had to spend like this amazing year in like, what is it, like Denmark or something? So somewhere in Scandinavia. And so that was incredible and amazing. I don't know. Anyway, I was just like, this was so heavy. It was so heavy. Okay, and the last book I read is One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. And I gave this 4 stars, which me giving a contemporary romance book 4 stars, that's pretty good for me, because usually I give these kinds of books, like, 2 or 3 stars. Because I get so mad with the obligatory fight that the happy couple has to go through before they're allowed to be together. I just get really annoyed. Especially, okay, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything, but I thought this is super fun. I buddy read this with my sister, and she finished a little bit before I did because she reads so much faster than I do. It was really fun. It was fun buddy reading this with my sister and like getting to talk to somebody like in real time about like everything that was going on, because I felt a lot of things when I was reading this book. And it's like, this is like, in my opinion, the best like contemporary romance book that I've ever read. And like, I think it's just because it was so different, because it's like, it's a little bit mixed format. And so without like giving anything away, so you get like emails and text messages, and there's like podcast transcripts, and there's like transcripts for the show. So if you don't know what this book is about, it's about this plus size vlogger, and she has a blog post talking about the lack of diversity on this bachelorette style dating show called The Main Squeeze. And so it goes viral, and she ends up getting invited to be the next Main Squeeze. And there's so much drama. And I've only watched 1 season of The Bachelor, and that's just because the guy was from Nashville. And so I'm like, it's local, I'm gonna watch it. And like, it was fine, I'm not really into it, but I couldn't turn down the concept of this book, which was a plus size girl on a dating show. And it delivered on the drama that you think it's going to deliver on. It was a lot of fun. And again, I got a little frustrated at the end with the, we gotta have one more test before we're allowed to be together. And I loved the conclusion, but I was so like, really like, I just didn't like the way some things were handled. I didn't like the way a character reacted. I was okay with the way the main character handled everything. I didn't like the way this other character was acting, and I was kind of pissy about it. And so even though everything was wrapping up and it went exactly the way I wanted, and it was kind of predictable in that way, but because I wanted it to go that way, I wasn't mad about the predictability of it. But it's just kind of like, I was still kind of irritated by the fight or whatever, that even though everything was so wonderful and perfect at the end, it wasn't enough to bring my excitement back up to where it was, because it was like real high, and then it dropped down and it came back up to here, but I just didn't have the energy anymore. But I really, really liked this book. So yeah, I'm really glad I read it. And it's kind of inspiring me to want to read more contemporary books. But yeah, I want to diversify my reading a little bit. And so this is a really good addition to that very small pile of contemporary books that I have. So next, I'm going to do my TBR for the rest of the year. Okay, so So first we have Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan Mcguire. I just kind of have that jacket draped over this because, you know, I take them off when I'm reading them. And I haven't started this book yet, but I'm very excited to read this. They're portal fantasies. So I don't know what this book is about specifically. I just know that what these books are about in general, which is they're about these people, I think mostly children who go through these portals. And they have all these adventures in this other world, and then they get back to this world and they're kind of like disoriented. And so like there's this home for people who have gone through portals to help them adjust and things of that nature. So I'm looking forward to this. And then I meant to read this in November. I actually meant to read this in October. But Witches by Rosalind Skenazer. And this is, you know, nonfiction, but like for middle grade audience. And so it's illustrated about the Salem witch trials and things of that nature. And it's really short. So I really want to read this by the end of the year. And this also has a dust jacket, but I've also already taken it off. And the last short read on the list is The New Mutants by Jonathan Hickman. And yeah, it's just New Mutants Volume 1. I think one of the more modern version of this story. So I wanted to read this. And I don't have to read this by the end of the year, but I thought I would because I'm probably going to have an afternoon where like I'm struggling to read. And so I'll just read something easy. Okay, so the longer books that are on the December TBR, the first one is Winter Spell by Claire Legron. This is a Nutcracker retelling, and it is pretty dark. So I'm about this far into the book thus far. I'm actually reading this on ebook because I'm just struggling to get through this book. And I think it's just because she's not a whiny girl. Clara is not whiny per se. She's just like a little whiny, and my tolerance level is like at a 0. And so there's like also nonstop action, which you think I would just be like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? Because it's like one action scene out of the next, never a dull moment. It's really interesting. The writing's really good. The world building's really good. And I can see everything. It's just the main character's getting on my nerves just a little bit. And I don't think it's because she's annoying. I think it's just because I just have no tolerance right now. And so I switched to the ebook, and I'm just going to read it in the shower until my tolerance builds back up, or at least until the story gets so interesting that I can't stand it anymore and I want to finish it. And I really want to finish it while it's still cold outside. But I don't know. I think I'm making decent progress to only be reading a few pages a day. And then next, I want to read Uprooted by Naomi Novik. And I think this is some kind of Beauty and the Beast retelling set in this fantasy world where there's this dude known as the Dragon, and then like every 10 years, the town gives him a woman as, I don't know, some kind of sacrifice so that he will continue to protect them from these creepy woods. And so our main character, she just knows her best friend's going to get picked, but instead she is picked. And that's all I know about this story. And it's been sitting on my shelf for a while. And I've been excited about it all this time and still not picking it up. So I'm like, I'm going to try to get this book started in December. And hopefully I'll love it and it'll go by quickly because I really want to get this book started also. And I'm hoping a couple of weeks. And that is Sleep in the Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. And all I know about this book is that there are aliens in it. And I'm so here for this book, and I really want to read it. And so basically I have, except for some books that I can get read in like an afternoon, like some of these shorter books, I basically have 2 weeks to read Uprooted, and then I'm going to start this book regardless, because I think I can get this book done in a couple weeks if I read it every day. And also, I have a 4-day weekend around Christmas, because Christmas Eve is on the day that I'm normally off work. So unless I get drafted to work that day, I should be off that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I feel like I should be able to get this book done. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. But all I know is that there's this woman and she makes a discovery, a terrifying discovery, and it's aliens. So that's all for this video. Hopefully it's not too long, but I wanted to, I'm going to try when I do my TBR videos to also do a reading wrap up for the previous month and then the TBR for the next month or the current month, whatever month I'm on. And hopefully that will work out. And normally I would just keep the book hauls separate, but I wanted to do it in this video since I had a book on my reading wrap up that was part of the book haul. Anyway, happy December, or almost December if you're watching this on Monday. And I will see you guys in the next video next week. And yeah, let me know if you read any of these books, and happy reading, and see you next time. Bye.